Happy Sunday to you. Happy Sunday to you. Happy Sunday, dear people. Happy Sunday to you. And many more. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, everyone. So good to see you on this Sunday afternoon. Today is Sunday, November 20th, 2022. Welcome to the JB Show here on RBN, Revolutionary Blackout Network. I am your host, James Fauntleroy, and it's so good to see all of you here. Just to let you guys know that the JB Show streams every single Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, and you can catch me on the RBN Live on Tuesdays at 4 and the Sabby and JB Show on Thursdays at 6. Excuse me. I also have my own channel called the JB Font Channel. You can also tune into the JB Font Channel on Tuesdays at 2, and then maybe even some other additional streams as well throughout the week. Thank you so much to all the patrons on Patreon, as well, as the people who continuously send me mutual aid from time to time. It is deeply appreciated, and without you guys, I would not be able to survive. Please do not forget to click the link, and it's so good to see all of you here. You guys know the algorithm doesn't like us, and there's some things that I'll be talking about that the algorithm especially does not want to get out there. So if you guys can, please, the 49 of you that are watching right now, I need to see 49 likes in there right now. So because thing is that we have some very deep topics to talk to you about today. There's some topics that I don't think that are really being talked about in a lot of the independent media spaces, especially ones that don't share the same skin color as us, because it's just not in their purview. For some of them. So I think that's very important. So please, if all 50 of you can actually like it, because, so that it gets more circulation so that people know exactly what's going on, it's very much appreciated. As per usual, when I go live, I also like to give my salutations and hello. Oh, by the way, I also have my tea. Okay, so I'm already halfway done with it. Okay. By the way, the story I'm starting with now is not viewer discretion advised, but the second story in the middle will be viewer subject that we're going to be talking about. Okay, so I will let you know right before I go into the subject, but just to let you guys know ahead of time that there will be a portion of the stream that may be triggering for some people. Just letting you guys know. These are subjects that we have to talk about, that we cannot shy away from. This is the country that we live in because of the system that we have, and these things need to be brought to light, even though a lot of the international and national media just isn't covering it. So CBC voters in the chat saying, happy Sunday, JB. Good to see you, CBC voter. Good to see you. Yepek says, hey, all, got a feeling that tomorrow or Tuesday I'll be giving up my kitten. What? She'll inevitably probably be put down and naturally die at a young age due to unforeseen health complications I can't afford to fix. What? Oh my gosh. It says skeletal deformation requiring surgery, heart defect needing heart surgery, and liquid in the lungs. Oh my God. What? Oh no. There's no more apparent when she was a baby. Oh my God. Yep, X, I'm so sorry. Oh, damn. Oh, is there like a GoFundMe you can set up or something? Or is it just too late? Or let me know. Let me know in the chat. Damn, I'm so sorry. Whew, rough morning. Zombie in the air. Good to see you, Zombie in the air. Eric Gray is also in the chat, says, this world is messed up when being kind is seen as a weakness. Eric, boy, you hit the nail around the head, Eric. Thank you so very much to see you. Wari is in the chat saying, hey, everybody, good to see you. Rutherford, Maplethorpe says, JB, good to see you, Rutherford. All right. Roger Meadows is in the chat, giving out some love to YepX. Good to see you, Roger, as always. By the way, Roger, I'm keeping an eye on Rockman, just to let you know. So just to let you know. Okay. So we have Pyramid 7 says, Kansas City Chiefs. I'm sure Nick will be very appreciative of that. I'm not sure if he's a Chiefs fan, though. But, hey, who knows? If he is, great. If not, then we'll cheer for whatever team that he likes. Rick Solis is in the chat saying, hey, all. By the way, Rick, I got to say, I got to compliment you on your beard. Your beard is fire. I got some work to do. I'm a little self-conscious now. I'm just saying. I need to be more like you, Rick. That beard is just, you know what I'm saying? So good to see you. Aaron with dogs saying, Isarona. I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. Aaron with dogs. Let me see. Yep. Yep, says, is JB going to dress in a turkey suit? No comment. I am not. Randy Bray says hello. Good to see you, Randy. All right. Bestie Sweary Fairy says Bestie with the scalding hall. I don't know what that is. Oh, well, good to see you. Generation Y Me, who is MPD? Minneapolis Police Department. We'll get into that in a little bit. Do you have Dorian? Says, children of the Most High stand up all over the world. Good to see you, Dorian. Michael Pino says, morning and God bless. Is it Michael Pino or Michael Pino? I'm trying to figure out I just want to make sure I say it correctly, out of respect. But good to see you as well. All right. Hang on. Who else do we have in the chat? All right. Olaf's Dotier says, I can be very kind, but extremely cool as well. I'm thinking there's also quite a few more like me. Good to see you as well in the chat. Alan giving some love to YepX. Alan Jean Hebert. All right. So good to see all of you. Did I miss anybody? Hang on. I'm trying to make sure I get as many people in as possible. Leroy is also in the chat, giving some love to YepX. Good to see you, Leroy. Leroy's always giving love out here, man. Got it, man. The kindness level is 9,000. Red Raccoon says, morning all. Good to see you. Jay Moore says, bro, you got gray hair. How old are you? 38, baby. 38. Yep. It's been a long 38 years. Oh, okay. Michael Pino said the first one. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right. I got to say 9,000. Okay. So the first story that we're going to get into is not very somber. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. So Kanye West. Now, I typically don't touch on a lot of celebrity stories outside of the Sabby and JB show for the reason that Sabby and JB show is more the lighthearted side of RBN. We cover social topics. We cover, kind of nerdy topics that on Sabby and JB show, and then we'll also cover topics, that have to do with pop culture, things like that. But what this story is actually talking about is quite interesting. Now, I don't know if I can show this the actual clip. I would love to um on from CNN, but if anything, I'll just read, the article because I don't want us to get a copyright strike. Even though it is supposed to be a news media network, but sometimes they get a little, you know. But anyways, so this is going to be an interesting story to start off with. So I'm going to share my screen really quick. Let me do that just in case. So this is CNN, and here's the headline. It says, Kanye West can't sell White Lives Matter shirts because two black men own the trademark. This came out on November 4th. And so this is very interesting. So it says two black radio hosts in Arizona could be potential roadblock if Kanye West ever decides to sell his White Lives Matter t-shirts in the United States. Ramses Ja and Quentin Ward, hosts of the weekly racial justice radio show Civic Cypher, became the legal owners of the phrase trademark for its use on clothing last month. The story was first reported by Capital B. Taking ownership of the trademark for the phrase White Lives Matter was a difficult decision for the host, they said, but they agreed to it once it was clear that someone stood to gain significant profit from it. Because, as you've seen, even though he, Kanye West, says really some hurtful, divisive, and some crazy things, he has a bit of zealot following, and every time he releases something, it sells out. He said the phrase has more staying power than it would hope, and the best case scenario is that no one is saying the term in the months to come. The host considered owning the trademark a responsibility that includes making sure it doesn't end up in the wrong hands. They didn't want anyone to potentially profit from the term that the Anti-Defamation League has characterized as a hate slogan. The phrase is used by white supremacist groups, including Ku Klux Klan, and described as a racist response to the Black Lives Matter movement. So this is actually very interesting, right? Um, from what I've watched in the from what I've watched in the interview, the anchor, the host, asked, "So what do you guys plan on doing?" And they said, "For right now, we're doing absolutely nothing." Meaning that because they own the trademark to White Lives Matter, if anybody tries to profit off of, especially for racist means, they can't do it. They're not going to profit off of it because they're not doing anything with it. But when somebody else tries to profit off it, they can legally stop it. Nope, you cannot do that. And so the funny part about this story is that you have black men literally using the apparatus that capitalist corporations have helped build in order to fight against the same system that it perpetuates. Isn't that funny? That is hilarious. They're literally using their apparatus against them. Oh, so you guys want to perpetuate white supremacy and you guys want to profit off of it? Okay, we're actually going to use your apparatus against you, and now you can't do it. Is this a really big story? Not really. But it is funny and notable because here's the thing. Kanye West is tap dancing for a subset of the citizenry that appeals to white supremacy. And because of that, you have other black people who see this as problematic, who put a stop to it. this is something that is part of the war against capitalism, white supremacy. Now, I don't know if these two radio hosts are anti-capitalist. I don't know. Um, because of how more rare it is for us to be anti-capitalist now. We're growing, but it's still kind of rare. I'm venturing to say that they aren't, but they're just very socially conscious. That, but if they are anti-capitalist, what's up, comrades? But I, you know, because of our numbers, is not as much as I think it should be at the moment. But the thing is that the fact that they're using the capitalist apparatus in order to hold back the profiting of white supremacy is just chef's kiss. It's beautiful, you know. And when I came across this story, it's funny. I came across this story on TikTok. I was just scrolling through TikTok, and somebody was talking about how this story just gave them life, and I was like, wait a minute. Let me get on the search engine and let me look this up. And I found the CNN program that talks about it. But it, the whole "White Lives Matter" phrase came out as a response, came out as a white supremacist racist response to the phrase of "Black Lives Matter." Now, whatever you think about the organization, I think the organization itself is problematic because of the decisions that they've made, the courses that they've taken. But the movement itself, the phrasing itself, I say keep it going because it is valid and it continues to need to be said. Because the thing is that phrase "Black Lives Matter" came about because it was really an affirmation to ourselves and for allies to say that we do matter because we live and exist in a country where our lives never mattered. The whole phrase about "White Lives Matter" is kind of like a duh, no shit, Sherlock, because this country has always regarded white lives as mattering. So truth be said, truth be told, I should say, does it need to be said? No, it doesn't need to be said, and it doesn't need to exist in order to be trademarked. The reason why is because it's always been that way. It just has. The thing is that it hasn't been that way in this country. And I will say this. The fact of Black Lives Mattering has not been realized yet. It hasn't. It has not been realized. And the next story will tell you why. But it hasn't been realized yet because white supremacy, racism, colonialism, imperialism, capitalism. It hasn't been realized yet. It will be realized when we can actually have a more equal, equitable, egalitarian society. But until then, our lives still don't matter. Doesn't. This is why RBN exists. This is why you're here. Have you clicked on the like button yet? Good going, fam. Let me go to the chat really quick. What are your thoughts about this? Do you think that was a smart move? Do you think it was, petty? What is your thoughts? All right, so you see. All right. Ellen says BLM is no longer viable. It has been infiltrated by the feds and it's evolved into a crappy NGO getting grants for salaries. Yeah, just like when the thing is that when you're referring to the organization, I agree. The organization has become really a neoliberal organization, so it doesn't really matter much. But the actual movement itself and the sentiment itself is something that is definitely still worthy of, number one, being said, but it also means that it needs to be meant, right? Like, someone who's non-black, who says Black Lives Matter, if they actually say it, do they really mean it? I argue to say to some people, they may say it, but they actually don't really mean it, because it comes out in the covert racism, the microaggressions. Sometimes this is, touted by liberals. They'll even put the hashtag in their bios or their stickers on their cars or something like that. But how they actually truly treat us, and when it comes to our liberation, they're not really for it. So they really don't actually mean it. It's really just it's really just a way to placate us. It's just tokenization. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, that's also another element as well. But that's a whole nother story. Uh, V says WLM is such an extremely cringy slogan. Yeah, it definitely is. Where says you would have thought he had covered the registration aspect beforehand. He might have a case if he can demonstrate that he used it in a tangible manner before it was usurped, though. Yeah, but he hasn't. So it's theirs, and now nobody can use it to profit off of, which is wonderful. Allen says, depending on what kind of capitalism that enables and funds white power is a problem. What kind of black power do we have? We have financial power to fund organizations' self-defense. See, here's the thing, and I'm going to quote Fred Hampton when I say this. He said, you're not going to fight capitalism with black capitalism, but with socialism. You cannot fight fire and add to it with more fire. You have to fight fire with water. Problem is that a lot of black people automatically think that because we try to go the same route of capitalism that our oppressive counterparts have done, that we can suddenly somehow succeed in doing it. Well, when you look at the core tenets of capitalism actually means that you have to exploit people by default in order to achieve more, to achieve growth. Because of that, that means that we honestly would have to exploit and mistreat people who belong to us, other black people. We have to mistreat poor white people. We have to mistreat immigrants. We have to mistreat people abroad. We also have to engage in imperialism. So capitalism in itself is a cancer. And why in the world would we, as a black people, self-respecting black people, participate in a system that literally helped bring us here to this continent under either duress or force, or by force, and then kept us here as a stolen people? Because that's the system that was used in order to bring us here, in order to engage in free labor, in order to build a country for a small group of people that don't give a shit about us. So therefore, I honestly do think that the whole uh mythos of a black person working through the capitalist system in order to achieve liberation is foolhardy and counterproductive, because you're literally trying to do what the white man has done. You're literally trying to do what the slave masters did. We're not going to blackwash capitalism. We're not going to do that. because it is inherently parasitic and is inherently detrimental to the planet that we live on. And this is why, our greatest revolutionary leaders were all anti-capitalist. This is why every single member of RBN is anti-capitalist, because it has done nothing but cause pain and suffering throughout the world. Is it a little bit better than feudalism? Slightly better than feudalism. But it has still the same core tenets of feudalism, which requires a subset of slavery in order for it to happen. We literally still have slavery within this country. Look at the 13th Amendment. There's still exception for slavery. Then on top of it, in some states, we actually had to, through ballot initiatives, get rid of the language of allowing slavery in the Constitution in 2022. That's because capitalism allows for systems like that to still exist. So that's why. But thank you for the comment. Bad Cookies. Good to see you, Bad Cookies. It says BLM has been realized. The BLM protests stopped. That means it's over, right? Funny how these protests stopped right after Trump left the White House, right? A lot of people went to sleep. Extra Booyah, so good to see you. Uncle Warren's in the house. AG is also here. Good to see you. Hello, hello. Sam Kane says BLM if you vote. Sarcastic. Yeah. Dead People's Thing says, I see peasants working hard to get aristocrats cushy government jobs who will never do anything for them. Ooh. Yep. But yeah, so the link to this is also in the description and the video corresponding to it. I encourage you guys to take a look at that. It's very interesting what they actually had to say. There's a lot more, that they say to this story, but yeah, I thought that was funny and kind of interesting. Roger Meadows says black saw BLM with an implicit "to" coming after it. White saw BLM with an implicit "only" coming after it. Okay, I'm glad you brought this up, Roger. Thank you. So with black people, when we heard Black Lives Matter, the actual phrase in our head was Black Lives Matter too, or Black lives also matter, right? That's what we saw. A lot of white people, I'm not saying all, but I'm saying a lot of them, saw Black Lives Matter only, or only Black Lives Matter. And so some of them took that and thought, oh yeah. The crazy part about it is that thinking that we're saying only, in my eyes, was really projection. Because they know that white lives only matter in this country. So their thought was, oh, we're getting revenge by saying Black lives only matter, when we weren't saying that. It was more inclusionary, not exclusionary. So the guilt is in there. I'm just saying, the guilt's there because their projection is showing. Because that's how our system actually operates. But yeah, so that's that was that story. I'm not going to stay too much on this story because I honestly think that this is kind of a social story, and I try to stick to more the economic aspects. But I just thought this was very interesting how they actually use the capitalist apparatus to actually fight white supremacy in that way. So I thought it was pretty cool. And yes, Ellen is absolutely correct. Says the federal is openly funding fascists. That is also true. Stewart says that the protest stopped after Trump suggests that most of the people involved were never serious. I think many were. It's just the problem about this, and I'm going to stop after this comment, but the problem is that you have a lot of people that were brainwashed into thinking that the Democrats and people like Joe Biden were actually sympathetic and actually agreed with the term Black Lives Matter at its fundamental definition, when in reality, the Democratic Party and people like Joe Biden do not agree with Black Lives Matter as a fundamental idea. They don't. Because if that was the case, then they would have never continued to fund and increase funding to the police, knowing what the police do to our Black bodies constantly in the streets, and constantly how we're being harassed because of the color of our skin. They wouldn't have done that. But the thing is that they don't really believe that. You mean to tell me the same guy that eulogized Strom Thurmond actually believes that Black Lives Matter? No, he doesn't. Hell, I'll even go this far. I don't think that Obama feels that Black Lives Matter. I said what I said. Welcome to RBN. Did you like the stream yet? And I'm not saying this to you, Stuart. I'm just, but I'm kind of, I'm adding on to your statement, which I definitely appreciate. So the thing is that a lot of times people will sit here and go, oh, but we had a Black president. Yeah, but all skin folk ain't kinfolk. We realize we as Black people know that from the jump. This is why we have coons and Uncle Toms. That's why. All skin folk ain't kinfolk. And we learn to distinguish it. The thing is that some of the coons and Uncle Toms also learn how to disguise themselves so that we think that they're down with us, that we think that they're down for the struggle when they're actually not. You actually think that Kamala Harris is really down for the struggle? No. You think James Clyburn is down for the struggle? No. Mm-mm. Maxine Waters? No. Sheila Jackson Lee? No. Barbara Lee? Not really. No, they don't. Maybe in the past they did, but not now. Because the thing is, a lot of them, they actually kind of watered themselves down in order to appeal to the white supremacist structure, because they think in their minds, oh, well, we got to do this in order to progress. But really, has progress actually happened for us? No, they were just fooled. They just allowed themselves to get brainwashed. But in the process of doing that, they actually allowed their pockets to get stuffed as well. That's the way it happens. Money's a hell of a drug. You know? Hell. And people are going to hate me for saying this, but I'm going to say this too. Just because John Lewis marched for Dr. Martin Luther King, and just because he was down for the struggle back then, doesn't mean he didn't soul out until towards the end of his life. Same thing with Jesse Jackson. Look, we got to call it out. We got to call a thing a thing. Just because there are Black elders doesn't mean that they are above criticism. We can still be, respectful, but at the same time, we got to let them know, hey, you sold out. People talk about, oh, Black people, they also voted and they agreed with the 94 crime bill. Well, I'm going to quote T'Challa in the first Black Panther movie. You were wrong. You were all wrong. It's true. They sold out. They were tricked. They were brainwashed. And some of them knew what was going on. Some of them knew what the okie doke was, and they still continued to go along with it. Some of them were tricked because they thought it was actually just crime written in our neighborhoods without actually realizing that was a poverty issue. And some people will be like, hey, you can't say it. Well, I just did. I just said it. They were wrong for endorsing and going along with the 94 crime bill. And for some reason, they agreed to sign on to the 94 crime bill that was written and authored by a segregationist. Thanks, Reality Revolution. Good to see you. Thanks for the super chat. Yep, I told you he was my hero. Yep. Oh yeah, there was She's Black says MLK was surrounded by black FBI informants. Jesse Jackson was one of them. In fact, I forgot who said it. Um, Man, I forgot who said it, but somebody was talking. I think was it Sabi in a interview with someone. Damn, but I remember someone saying that they were in association with the movement that was surrounded by with Dr. King, and they basically were saying how you know some of them were suspicious of Jesse Jackson. It's and that's true. Thing is, you have a lot of black people that, because they were scared of the government apparatus and how they treated black revolutionaries, they were basically subdued, and they were defanged and declawed, and so they just basically had to become tap dancers for the state, tap dancers for white supremacy, and that's what happened because they were afraid to actually die for what they truly believed in. Sammy's right. Hit the like button. Thanks a lot, Sabs. Good to see you in the chat. Okay. Yes, that's who it was. Cynthia McKinney also said that. Yes. And Sabi also said that was me and Omali Ishitella. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sabi. This is why I need your brain, because you can remember stuff better than I can. Thank you. Okay. But yeah, check out Sabi's interviews with Cynthia McKinney and Chairman Omali Ishitella. They're chef's kiss. Wonderful. Make sure to go to Sabi's channel. But yeah. So now, oh my God, the primary story. Oh, this one's going to be deep. Hang on. Roger says, Jay, what you said about Obama is not controversial. Look who raised him. Same thing with Jesse. A lot of our elders in our community suspected Jesse setting up and positioning him in right place to get shot. Ooh, yeah. Thanks a lot for that, Roger. Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right. Wait. Ellen says, I'm 61. I've seen Jesse Jackson with Kissinger attending a trilateral commission meeting. You don't say. Oh. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you. Thank you very much. Savvy says Michelle Obama was friends with Jesse's daughter in high school. Ooh, that makes sense. Oh, it's all coming together now, baby. Oh, it's coming together. Oh, yikes. Look, we don't choose our leaders. As far as political leaders, we don't choose them. We do not choose them at all. Jimmy Carter was at the Trilateral Commission as well. Ooh. Okay. Alan says, wait, okay. Says, I agree with everything you're saying. In fact, I met Fred Hampton Jr. That's how we wage warfare on white supremacy and Zionism. Thank you, Alan. Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's in her book. Oh, okay. All right. All right, that's a whole another story we can get into. I actually gone over a little bit over it than what I wanted to, but I wanted to touch on this story because it's so important. I want you guys to make sure that you click the like button. The reason being is because this story needs to get out, and I want you to ask yourselves this one important question: how many other independent media independent media entities are actually going to talk about this particular issue. This issue is viewer discretion, trigger warnings throughout this segment. This will be a very deep one. You may hear some troubling things. You're not going to see too many troubling things, but you're going to hear some things that are going to be troubling. And so this is why I'm putting this disclaimer ahead of any of you. So if you are uncomfortable with subjects like this, feel free to click away from this stream. Feel free. Okay. So the Minneapolis Police Department. The whole Me Too movement was an eye opener for a lot of us. It showed that a lot of people who are in power, the abuse that they have when it comes to sexual assault, especially of women. Even, have some men, prominent men, people like Terry Crews, that came out about him being sexually assaulted by a prominent person in Hollywood. I think what's something that people don't consider is the fact that it is happening to Black males, both boys and men, at the hands of police across this country. This is something that needs to be talked about. While the importance of talking about sexual assault that happens to women is of utmost importance, and that this story is not taking away from that at all. But it's also just to take this and put this into your purview so that you know that if you're out there, especially if you're white and especially if you consider yourself to be an ally, if you see someone who is Black, I don't care, male, female, non-binary, I don't care, that you stop, you get your camera up, and you watch them. Because not only are we being violated by them shooting us and beating us with impunity, but also sexually violating us, both men, women, trans, non-binary, with impunity. This is happening in this country. And people look at me with a twisted face and will be like, why do you want to defund the police? Because not only are they killing us, but they are sexually assaulting us. I'm going to share my screen really quick. I did not want to do this story. I'm being honest with you. I almost canceled this story today. I was only going to talk about Kanye West and what's going on with Haiti. I was not going to do this story. But in my mind, I'm like, JB, you have to, because it's that important. This is the reason why I'm covering it. I honestly do not want to cover the story because it tears at my heart. But I have to. This is also Me Too and Time's Up. This is also part of that same vein that we also need to consider, right? 250,000 different rape kits that are held within the police departments, across the United States that are untested. Number one, how many of them are the DNA of police officers? And two, how many of the DNAs are victims of men? All right, let's get into it. Shout out to Protect BM Bodies. This account is dedicated to these stories. Um, so this is in Wisconsin. Let's get into it.
He pulled out my pants, touched my testicles. They like eased down and they put their hands right between my butt. Just pulled my drawers down and dug in my rectum.
The alleged victims keep coming forward. 8 Milwaukee police officers are under internal investigation, accused of performing illegal strip searches, including cavity searches on the streets. Were they wearing any gloves?
No, I didn't see not one. There was no gloves.
Kevin Freeman Jr. claims back in December he and some friends were violated during a traffic stop.
When they searched me, they like eased down and they put their hands right between my butt. And I try to reach back and when I try to reach back and try to stop them, they just got to slamming me. He pulled out my pants, touched my testicles. They like eased down and they put their hands right.
Defend that. Defend it. Go ahead. Then Blue Line lovers, Blue Lives Matter lovers, police defenders, defend that. Go ahead, defend it. Especially a lot of them who tend to be consider themselves to be conservative, that want to talk about secret cabal of child sex rings. Y'all want to talk about sex rings? Go to police departments. Go to check out some corrections officers. You know what's sad about this? Stories like this are not new to the Black experience and goes way back to slavery. You think female slaves were the only ones that were being raped? Unfortunately, I'm not done. Baton Rouge. I'm not going to play this video because it actually shows some graphic images. But this says Baton Rouge PD molested 2 Black boys during a traffic stop. One boy was just 16. Imagine being handcuffed so that you can't move, and then a cop pulls down your underwears and fondles you. 16. By the way, the cop is still employed by the police department. Memphis police. Officer used his badge specifically for illegal sexual gratification.
As he considers this rape because the officer didn't just pat him down, he stuck his fingers up his anus, and it happened in front of a large group of people.
I can see how rape women, I can see how they feel now.
Humiliated and violated. That's how a Memphis man feels after an encounter with 2 Memphis police officers. He didn't want to share his name or show his face because he's scared of retaliation. The victim tells me it all started here at the intersection of Red Oak Street and Mimosa Avenue.
Just a minor detail. They should have blurred his tattoos. They should have blurred his tattoos. That's just a little critique. But I would have blurred his tattoos too, because people can be identified through their tattoos. Let's continue.
On August 5th, he was talking with a friend when 2 patrol cars pulled up.
2 officers jumped out and he just slapped his hands on the hood like hands on the car now.
In the lawsuit, the officers are called John Doe 1 and John Doe 2 because the victim doesn't know their names. The victim says the officers patted them down. Then one policeman found marijuana in his friend's pocket. Shortly after, the lawsuit claims the officer handcuffed him, removed his pants, then put a finger in the victim's anus. He believes his friend was searched the same way.
And I'm a grown man, you know, like for you to do that to me, but like I'm not supposed to feel a certain type of way.
The whole time, the victim says he was yelling, telling the officers he didn't give them permission to search him. But he says that made things worse.
You need to shut up. I can write it how I want to write it, make it look how I want to make it look.
Hours later, the victim was released. He made a complaint with MPD internal.
New York. Says NYPD Assistant Chief Christopher McCormack was so obsessed with young Black and Latino men's genitals that he actively molested them even after he was promoted to a position that required no street duty. The allegations against McCormack read in some ways like those against many other cops in the New York Police Department, that he was destructive in searching a home or overly physical with someone on the street. What stands out, though, is how often Black and Latino men accused him of invasive, humiliating searches. They said he pulled down their pants in public, exposing their... Some said he used fingers to search for drugs around and inside, and directed officers to do so. All told, ProPublica found that at least 15 men spoke to this pattern of behavior. One man claimed he was told to, quote, to get on all fours while naked, end quote, before he was probed. Another said McCormack searched him violently. I'm censoring my language because we're on YouTube, but you guys can read. But this is what's happening. And people automatically go, will say things like, well, if you just complied, if you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about. Did you know that stop and frisk, which basically a lot of this was, only led to 1% of the people being stopped and frisked to being arrested? That means 99% of the time, every single person that was stopped and frisked was innocent. 99%. When you say things like, well, if you just didn't do anything wrong, if you just complied, that's like telling a woman, well, maybe if you didn't dress that way, maybe you wouldn't have been attacked. That's like telling a woman, well, what did you do in order to make him advance towards you? That's victim blaming. Victim blaming. People are like, well, how can this happen? Why in the world would this happen? White supremacy. Colonialism. Yeah. This is happening in 2022 in this country. I'll say it once and I'll say it again. Defund the police on the road to abolishing them. Yeah. The Black Panthers were not mincing words when they called them pigs. This is what's actually going on. Police coerce black men into nudity. They manufacture situations where you are more concerned about defending your freedom by proving that you have no drugs or guns rather than recognizing that the cop is getting sexual gratification by looking at and touching your fetishized private parts. I can't show that one because that's very graphic. It doesn't actually show things, but yeah, that would definitely trigger somebody. So on top of being punched, kicked, choked, you're also essentially sexually assaulted as well. And they continue. This is in my city, Orlando. Yes, this happens here. It happens everywhere. It happens up north. It happens in blue states. It happens in red states. It happens everywhere. Wherever there's police or sheriff's offices.
These photos are censored but provide a snapshot into the humiliation an Orlando man endured, handcuffed, pants down, and private area exposed in the middle of a gas station parking lot on John Young Parkway. The driver, represented by a public defender, allegedly left his vehicle unattended without first stopping the engine while pumping gas, which is against state law.
If the cop said, hey, turn it off, be safe, none of this happens.
An assistant state attorney dropped the charges, writing a scathing memo reading in part, the defendant committed no traffic violation, yet the officers conducted a traffic stop, seized the defendant, removed him from his car, and searched both him and his vehicle. There was no probable cause, reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. The traffic stop was illegal. So the search that led to the drug charges was poisoned. During a recent interview, Chief Mina acknowledged the stop could have been handled differently.
So it's always a head scratcher to us when we see an over-aggressive police officer who must know that this is an illegal search.
By the way, just to let you guys know, Val Demings was the chief of police for Orlando Police Department a couple of years ago. Val Demings. She was replaced by Chief John Mina. Val Demings, Congresswoman, former and now Congresswoman Val Demings.
They have training.
Officer Ryan Sayer appealed a 16-hour suspension and received an oral reprimand. Internal Affairs found he did not establish probable cause and the stop was improper and illegal. He was exonerated of falsifying his report, though what he wrote was different from what he told Internal Affairs.
This is not new. Unfortunately, and I didn't want to do the story, but it had to be done. This is out the Guardian. Says sexual torture, American policing, and the harassment of black men. This is by Paul Butler. Says the police have been conducting stop and frisk for decades before the Supreme Court got around to approving them in the case of Terry versus Ohio. The practice began in the 1930s when cops saw African Americans doing things that they thought were suspicious. It could have been driving expensive cars, socializing with white people, or just hanging out on the corner. Police would routinely make them show identification, searching them and question them about where they worked and what they were doing. Most stops did not lead to arrests, but that was never really been the purpose of stop and frisk. Rather, the benefit that police gained was a tool for psychological warfare. according to Orlando W. Wilson, head of the Chicago Police Department from 1960 to 1967, and one of the pioneers of modern policing. Stop and frisk is an effective law enforcement strategy, Wilson thought, because it creates the impression that the police are omnipresent. For African Americans, stop and frisk is a form of government. It is the most visceral manifestation of the state in their lives. Most Black men have never been convicted of a crime. About half of Black men get arrested at some point during their lives, but virtually every African American man gets stopped and frisked. Of my Black male friends and colleagues between the ages of 20 and 70, I don't know who hasn't been. This person is a personal account. In an 8-block area of Brooklyn, New York, in a neighborhood called Brownsville, the police conducted almost 52,000 stop and frisks over a period of about 4 years, from 2006 to 2010. This was an average of one each year for every resident of the community. But stops were not distributed randomly. Virtually all the people stopped were young African American and Latino males. Men and boys between ages 15 to 34 made up almost 70% of the stops. A young male citizen of Brownsville got seized and searched about 5 times a year. This is the statistic. Less than 1% of these police detentions resulted in arrests. In other words, thousands of men and boys in this neighborhood were grabbed by armed agents of the state and then subjected to, quote, a careful exploration of the outer surfaces of a person's clothing all over his or her body, end quote, even though 99% of the time these people had committed no crime. Abuse of African American men have often had sexual component. Black male victims of lynching were frequently castrated and then their penises were stuffed into their mouths. A New York police officer inserted, and then I'm not going to read the continue, but you guys can read. In 1970, in Philadelphia, cops raided 3 offices of the Black Panther Party, ordered the men to line up against the wall and strip, and then took photos of them. Chicago Police Commander John Burge was overseeing the torture of 118 Black men. He and his midnight crew of cops coerced confessions from subjects by methods that include sticking electrical devices up their rectums, pouring soda in their noses, and burning them with curling irons. So I'm going to share this article also. As well in the chat. But this goes to show, like what I said before, to want the abolition of police, to want the defunding of the police is actually a very reasonable measure. Deeply reasonable. Because we are literally being killed, assaulted, raped, and tortured constantly within this country. Over and over and over. And people continuously make excuses. And people will go, oh, well, there's bad people in every industry. How many pilots do you hear about this happening with? How many surgeons do you hear about this happening with? I mean, yeah, medical malpractice happens, and there are some people who just shouldn't be in medical practice, but at this rate, so yeah, I mean, that's just, this is not something that is, a laughing matter. And a lot of times, you know, we will be rightly and accurately and correctly serious about when women talk about their experiences regarding assault, right? Which we all should be. We should take this completely serious. But we also should do the same thing when it comes to men, boys, trans women, trans men. We should take this just as seriously. And the fact that this is happening at the hands of police. I don't see anybody that could make a case for why this is okay. And this just continuously adds on to the exhibits of why we should end policing as we know it. Because this is not public safety. This is trauma. This is abuse. And Joe Biden just gave millions more to fund the police. And before anybody says anything else, yes, Donald Trump would have did the same thing. Yes, Barack Obama would have done the same thing. Yes, George W. Bush would have done the same thing. Yes, Bill Clinton would have done the same thing. Despite this. You're right, Jason. It is deeply crushing. The fact that you have people out there that will make excuses for police officers and go, well, these are just the bad apples. This is too much. No. It's not bad apples. This has been poisoned since the beginning. Natalie Williams, thank you very much for the super chat. Hardest subject to address, JB. Kudos to you for highlighting it. Hurts down to my soul. Yeah. Steve, I can't read your super chat because I don't feel that's appropriate. That's why I haven't read it. I'm sorry. Thank you for the super chat, but I just don't feel that comment was appropriate. So I'm not going to read it. I'm sorry. But thank you for the super chat. Optimism of the Will says ACAB, but some departments seem to have extremely high tolerance for anti-Black violence. MPD, Baltimore, LA. That's true. That's very true. This is an interesting comment. Say Grinning Grooves says, if blacks move out of the subclass in the United States, who moves in? There's always a subclass in capitalism. That's also very true. That is true. Kat Terrell, I definitely agree with you. He says the boys and men speaking out are courageous because many never spoke out before. Yeah. And there's this stigma that if it happened to you, and I'm not going to say the actual word, but if it happened to you, then for some reason, then other men will stigmatize it by saying, "Oh, you allowed it," or if it happened to you and you allowed them to that, you're a B word, right? Right? It's crazy. Male culture, man. Sabby says, don't forget that the same police department allowed Dahmer's crimes to continue. Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah, police departments allowed that to continue. Yes, Alan. Yeah, a lot of white supremacist problems here in Florida. A lot, yeah. Bill Bradley, good to see you, says, I think no one gets out of being on the bottom in capitalism. Capitalism just keeps getting more and more people on their bottom as the people at the top get richer and richer. Yeah. Very well said, Bill. Very well said. Also, Roger Meadow says, do you know about the NYPD sexual assault of Haitian immigrant Abner Luima in the late 90s? If you don't, please look it up. I like to see your real-time reaction on camera. Well, I just read some of it. I can't do it, man. I can't. This talking about this is just enough for me. I can't do it. I appreciate you bringing it to my attention, Roger, but I just can't. I can't. Just doing this story is just I had pit in my stomach before I went live. Jay Moore says, yo, I'm like 13 minutes back. I had to keep pausing the video just to calm down. Like I said, viewer discretion advised, man. But this happens, and this has happened. And I hate to put it this way, but imagine what happened to our grandfathers, our great-grandfathers, our ancestors that have had to endure this. It wasn't just our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers and our female ancestors. And remember, a lot of our female ancestors also had to bore the children of their abusers. Imagine that. They had to give birth to their abuser's child. Imagine being married to your wife and then she gets abused by your master and you can't do anything about it. Imagine your master abusing you and your wife can't do anything about it. Jim Crow lynchings became a thing. The massacring us has happened so many times. Castration, cutting off of genitalia. And it's funny, people will be like, oh, you guys don't need reparations. You guys, we shouldn't have reparations. Yeah. So, you know, yeah. Ellen says they gave birth and then watched that lighter shade child taken in as a concubine. You see, there's a lot of trauma within the Black community. It's a lot. All because they wanted cheap labor and they stole the people, brought them over here to work. And in doing so, they also did massive cases of abuse and trauma to us as a people. Also, they can continue to make more profit. Please make sure to hit the subscribe button so that we can continuously talk about important issues like this. Because the thing is that a lot of other channels will not talk about this. They will not touch this subject. Because either one, they don't know, they don't have the wherewithal, or number two, because to them, it's just too sensitive. RBN has not shied away from sensitive subjects. We have had to confront them because this is what capitalism and white supremacy has meant for us as a people. There's very little channels that will touch this. The only ones that I can think of, maybe Black Power Media, shout out to them. They're real ones. Solidarity and love to y'all. As well as to people like, my homie, my sister from Another Mystic, Kim Brown. Shout out to her too. But not too many channels will cover this, especially ones that are white. They won't. This is why we tell you guys to support Black independent media, especially on the left like us, because who else is going to talk about this? They won't touch this. They won't show what's actually going on with this country. They won't show the fact that we are continuously being killed. If it talks about something that's viral like George Floyd, they'll talk about it. Then once George Floyd is over, they skip and jump. They go away. They don't talk about it anymore. They won't talk about, they won't talk about Jaheim McMillan. They won't talk about Ahmaud Arbery. How many of them are actually still talking about Breonna Taylor? They don't talk about it because it doesn't matter as much to them. When we talk about liberation, this is where we're talking about being liberated from. You don't realize the trauma that comes into us, that constantly we're bearing day in, day out because of capitalism, colonialism, imperialism. There's even studies that are trying to be done which may show that we carry some of this trauma in our mitochondrial DNA. Why do you think that spanking continuously happens in the Black community? Do you think that it's just because, we've been spanking our children ever since we were way back in Africa? We've been doing that for. Do you really think that we've been doing it for that long? The way we operate as a people here in this country? Do you think that still hasn't been traced down? Let me get this site up really quick because make sure I got it. I'm going to share this and share this with everybody you can. This site, because this is a solution, and this is why it needs to happen. Thank you, Sabby. Sabby, thank you. Sabby says, which is why I don't believe in corporal punishment. I don't believe in corporal punishment either. Because this happens to us all the time. It constantly happens to us. It happened to our ancestors. And they suffered. Oh, yes. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mary Leck. Also, Marcus and Chris at Political Matrix would cover this. Yes. Shout out to them too. I forgot about that. I apologize. But yes, they would cover this too. Shout out to them as well. They're real ones too. Shout out to them. And I know there's some that would cover. People like Colin at the Indie News Network probably will cover it, maybe. But not a lot. Because it's heavy. It's heavy. But I'm going to share this also in the streams. I see you, Rory O'Neill, and Rockfin. Good to see you as well. I'm going to share my screen. 10 for Justice. Nick of RBN is a co-founder. Share this. Share it. On the road to abolition. 10 demands for justice. This is what we talk about. This is a solution. I talked about the problem. Now let's talk about the solution. Because the thing is that every single time these police are doing this, I hate to put it this way, but I need to say it this way. They're sexually assaulting us on your dime. You're literally paying for sexual assault. Whenever you pay your taxes, you're paying for sexual assault. You're paying for genocide. That's what you're doing. That's what you're paying for. Those young men that were sexually assaulted by police, you paid for that. Yeah, you paid for it. You bought it. Every single time we get boots on the ground in these countries, every single time a drone is flown, every single time little kids are bombed and their bodies are blown to bits, you're paying for that. This is what you pay for. This is what we pay for. Every single time that tax is taken out of our checks. Every single time that tax is taken out of our property tax. Every single time we have to pay that sales tax. Every single time. This is also what's being paid for. And you wonder why we talk about defunding the police. Every single time a school resource officer slams a little girl's head into the ground in the classroom, that's what you're paying for. Every single time a woman, both cis and trans, are sexually violated and their rape kits are untested and left to just sit on the shelves in police departments, that's what you're paying for. I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of paying for this. I'm sick and tired of funding this. This is why we want to defund this. This is why we want to go on the road to abolition, so that we change public safety to actually mean public safety in this country. Welcome to RBN. Have you subscribed yet? Click the subscribe button. We talk about stuff like this. We're not going to shy away from it. By the way, we just don't talk about podcasters. This is one of the reasons why this is important to talk about. Bill, you touched on something absolutely correct. This is why I love when you're in my chat, Bill. Bill says, so we pay for them to do harm, and we pay if they get punished for doing harm. Yes. Yes. That little vacation that they take after killing us with impunity, yes, we pay for that too. Even when we sue the pants off of them, we pay for that too. Did you guys like the stream yet? You're not liking it because it's a good story. You're liking it because the thing is that you appreciate what's being told. Have you liked the stream yet? Please let me get to 150 likes. Because the thing is that this needs to go out and needs to be talked about. That's why. Thank you for that. Wadi, thank you, says RBN and other channels talk about so many things that the critic can't keep up. So they focus on surface level things like a kid who crams for an exam by flipping through a textbook. Yeah. Thank you, Wadi. Appreciate it. Angelique says, I'm not surprised. Yeah. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. Thank you. But I had to do the story. I didn't want to. I really didn't want to. But I thank you for watching. So I'm going to be moving on to the next story. Final story for tonight. You know, it's funny. Everybody talks about Ukraine and Russia. They'll talk about these countries and they'll talk about what's going on with them. But how many talk about Haiti? To our Haitian brethren, bonjour. It's good to see all of you. To our comrades that are from the Dominican Republic, hola, ¿cómo estás? Que tengan buen día. There's deportations happening in DR. And you're like, deportations? Yes. Dominican Republic is deporting Haitian citizens. And some Dominican Republic citizens who are black because they think they're Haitian citizens. That's what's happening right now. Let's share the screen. Let me see. This is out of Bay State Banner. It says Dominican government deporting Haitians. UN official urges Dominican Republic to cease deportations, crack down on racism. Let me make sure that I have this enlarged. All right. And also, after all that, I need a sip of tea. Okay. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, has called on the Dominican Republic to cease forced deportations of Haitian migrants and people of Haitian ancestry amid a growing human rights crisis in Haiti. Louis Abinader, President of the Dominican Republic lashed out at Turk last Thursday, warning that the country would increase the deportations in response to his request. Turk, in response, doubled down on his demand. Quote, I am troubled to see that the forced returns of Haitians to Haiti from the Dominican Republic are continuing. Unremitting armed violence and systemic human rights violations in Haiti do not currently allow for the safe, dignified, and sustainable return of Haitians to the country. I reiterate my call to all countries in the region, including the Dominican Republic, to halt the deportations of Haitians. Turk also called on Dominican authorities to step up efforts to prevent xenophobia, discrimination, and related forms of intolerance based on national, racial, or ethnic origin or immigration status. The Dominican Republic deported an estimated 60,000 Haitians and people of Haitian ancestry between August 1st and October 31st. The current wave of deportations is the latest development in a saga that began in 2014 when the Dominican Republic High Court stripped citizenship from people descended from Haitian migrants. While Caribbean island nation confers citizenship on people born there, the jurist excluded Haitians, claiming their status as guest workers exempted them from the right to citizenship. By the way, despite all living on the same island. For decades, the Dominican Republic has recruited workers from Haiti to cut sugarcane, a labor-intensive job. In 2019, Dominican produced 545,515 metric tons of sugar, exporting most of it, $112 million worth, to the United States. In 1999, the Dominican government privatized the then state-owned industry, aka capitalism. There are an estimated 500,000 Haitians working in the Dominican sugar industry in what human rights agency described as slave-like conditions, working 18-hour days and earning as little as $3 a day. While many people of Haitian descent have been living in the Dominican Republic for generations and don't speak Haitian Creole or French, increasing numbers of such people have been sent to Haiti, having lost their Dominican citizenship in 2013. I'm going to share this article with you guys in the chat as well. There's more to that article than what I read. And I want you guys to be able to read that for yourselves as well. So this is what's going on in Haiti. I'm also going to show another article. Where's the article that I want to share? Okay, here we go. This is the Black Agenda Report. If you guys have not put Black Agenda Report into your bookmarked pages for your web browser, I suggest you do so. Black Agenda Report is a very wonderful resource to use to get your news from as well. Margaret Kimberly, who is a friend to RBN as well as to my channel, is also a writer for Black Agenda Report. So if you guys please also continue to get your news from them as well. It says, statement and petition against inhumane deportation of Haitian migrants from the Dominican Republic. It says oppression of Haitians in the Dominican Republic intensifies as deportations and discrimination against Dominicans of Haitian descent continues. The Socialist Workers Movement of the Dominican Republic and 24 other Dominican and Haitian organizations have issued this joint statement and petition. So this is an article published by the Socialist Movement of the Workers of Dominican Republic. As we repudiate President Abinader's campaign of mass deportations and decree of 668-22. President Abinader has reacted violently to the international calls he has received due to his massive human rights violation against Haitian immigrant community. The president has threatened to increase the pace of deportations of Haitian people and has issued a dangerous decree of 668-22, which enables the expulsion of thousands of people who have been living in the Batailles on state islands for decades. The Batailles is a plural meaning from Bate, sugar workers town. Bate or Batailles in plural is a settlement around sugar mill that can be found in Cuba, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico. And so basically they are working in these basically shanty towns that are really horrible working conditions in order to help build the sugar industry in the Dominican Republic. Just to give you guys a little background information. We're facing a very dangerous campaign of massive deportations that could turn into a campaign of ethnic cleansing if the Dominican society doesn't show democratic reflexes and put a stop to the government. So right now what's going on in the Dominican Republic is very anti-Black legislation and anti-Black measures to expel people of Haitian descent. And by the way, they're also trying to build a border wall in the Dominican Republic in order to keep Haitian people out. Meanwhile, Haiti is literally one of the poorest nations in the world. And it is going through a lot of crises because of the imperialism and colonialism that it has been subject to. And a lot of what U.S. interference has been basically pushing against the nation. So because of this, there's a lot of anti-Blackness that's happening now in the Dominican Republic in their government against Haitian people who are seeking refuge in order to live a better life. You have some people of Haitian descent that do not speak Haitian Creole or French, who speak only Spanish, that are being forced to move back to Haiti or forced to move to Haiti even though they've never lived there. So much so that there are some Black Dominicans that live in rural Dominican Republic that are also being caught and swept up and being forced to live in Haiti, even though they are not Haitian at all. They are Black Dominicans. They are Afro-Dominicans, Afro-Dominicano. And they're being forced to live there, even though they're not Dominican at all. But because they're Black, they are being perceived as being Haitian. This is what's going on. This is the anti-Blackness that's going on. So this is what's going on in the world. I'm going to go to some of the comments in the chat really quick. Wadi says the Francophonie, the French equivalent to the Commonwealth, is having a summit this weekend. Haiti was brought up today. Trudeau is sending a whopping $16.5 million CDN, which is equivalent to 12.32 million of US dollars for aid. Oh, wow. That's a lot. Yeah. Catarel says Haitian refugees are still held back in Mexico. Yeah. The United States treats Haitian refugees like crap. Yes, Desert Mantis, Saint Margaret Kimberly, as also affectionately known as Auntie Margaret. Yeah. Ellen says, I'm pretty sure Navarro is a ruling class family in DR. Jason says, I live in an old shanty towns in Puerto Rico. You seen? Have you been to those? Jason, have you been to those sugar mills? The Betayes in Puerto Rico. How are they? Are they, you know, are they more? How can I put it? Are they more better working conditions, slightly better working conditions, or are they just as terrible? Let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are. Rick Soli says their struggles must be our struggles in solidarity to the Haitian workers and the migrant workers that were exploited in Qatar. Preparing for the World Cup, we must unite. Thank you so much for that, Rick, as well. Jason Rodriguez says, which is absolutely ridiculous. Dominicans are actually have more percentage of black in than probably any other Hispanic. Crazy, right? It's wild. Jennifer says, I work with a girl who's in Dominican Republic. Her father came here and was deported to DR. She said they had a bad dictator years ago. I guess things haven't changed. Yeah. Jason says, didn't Dick Cheney find oil in Haiti? Is that sort of the reason they're here too? Possibly. Possibly. K. Dot says, there's no such thing. Dominicans don't see blacks people there as Dominicans. They think that island is still Española, dominated or should be. Interesting. That's interesting. Whoa, my favorite police officer, my favorite police auditor is Dominican, and he got locked up in NYC 2 months ago. He's now in solitary confinement for 45 days. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's crazy. Natalie says, Daniel Mathurin, a French scientist, has compared Haiti's oil reserves to a swimming pool compared to those of Venezuela, which he likened to a glass of water. Oh, no. Oh, no. You mean to oh, man. If there's that much oil in Haiti, the imperialists are going to come out the woodwork. Oh, my God. They're going to come out the... Oh, my God. Damn. Thanks for the information, Natalie. Appreciate it. Nubian X says, anti-black racism is all over the place, unlike other types of racism. like anti-Semitism, which exists only with white supremacists and rhetoric of the Nation of Islam. It needs more focus on the left. Yeah, the anti-black racism is just, it's constant. Hang on, make sure Roger says, JB, I envision a world where we replace corporations with cooperatives. Me too. Then work with co-ops in different countries who are currently being exploited. That's the dream, Roger. Bro, that's the dream, man. Like, for real. Workers owning, their workplaces and their establishments. That's the dream, my dude, my guy. Thank you. Just making sure. Okay. But yeah. So that's what's going on in Dominican Republic, in solidarity to our Haitian, family, our brethren. Not only those who are, in Haiti, those who are in Dominican Republic, who are, being deported. Also solidarity with our Haitian brothers and sisters at the southern border who are being held in Mexico because they're being denied entry as refugees here into the United States. Also, shout out to all of our brothers and sisters throughout Central and South America who are going through it because of the imperialism of the United States, who are constantly facing trouble because of what our nation is doing in order to destabilize their countries. Shout out to all of you. Because the thing is that this country is constantly trying to undermine for the sake of capitalist efforts, for the sake of what's going on with their corporations, for the sake of profit. And then our countries are constantly, our country, not just the United States, but a lot of the countries in the West are constantly trying to bash and plague these other countries just so that they can bring these other countries into corporate submission. Like, for instance, what's going on in Syria, Libya, Yemen, what's going on with the Palestinians, what's going on with the Congolese, with the Somali. It's constantly going on. And this is why those of us at RBN, we express our solidarity with people who are oppressed in these nations. This is why it's up to us to not only educate ourselves, but to also spread the message abroad, throughout this country to all of our neighbors so that we can change this country. Because if we change this country so that it benefits us, the most disenfranchised among us, then that type of sentiment, that type of thought will permeate throughout the country. And then we can also have that type of sentiment permeate throughout the world so that oppression of people who are constantly under the boot of U.S. imperialism, that boot can be removed so that people who are in socialist nations that are trying to achieve their dreams, they won't have the boot of sanctions on top of them as well. We can finally lift the sanctions and embargo off of Cuba and Venezuela and Iran and in DPRK. We can finally hold, responsible countries like Saudi Arabia for what they have done and what they continuously do to their people as well. So this is important. Have you guys subscribed yet? Good. Nubian X says a lot of Black people in Latino countries have been mentally conditioned to reject their Black identity and ancestry in favor of being perceived more as Latino or ancestrally Spanish, it needs to change. I didn't know that Afro-Latinos existed until I was an adult. I remember working in a furniture store, and this is to Nubian X's credit. Thank you for bringing this out. But I was working in a furniture store, and 3 Black women came into the store. I assumed that they were Haitian and spoke Creole or French until they started speaking Spanish to me. And then I was like, what? And they were my complexion. 3 elderly Black ladies. They were Afro-Latino. There are Afro-Colombians, Afro-Cubans. Haitians are also considered Latino because they speak a Latin language and they were colonized by, by a European country that spoke a Latin language. French is a Latin language, so they're by default considered Latino. I learned that too. I learned that from a Latino. So yeah, Haitians are considered Latino too. English is not considered a Latin language, which is kind of interesting. So then people from like Jamaica and St. Lucia and St. Thomas and places like that, they're not considered Latino. They're just considered Caribbean. But yeah, solidarity with all of them. And, you guys continuously, share our stuff, and we really appreciate it. But yeah, so that's the show. This was tough to get through. I'm exhausted. Gene said many Black people were brought here to Costa Rica to work in the banana plantations. They have a strong, rich community in the Limon area on the Atlantic side. Oh, okay. Thank you very much for that. Oh, gosh. Oh, hey, Lucy. Blue Moon Mirror One says, I have not seen that many Afro-Latinos reject their Black identity. Probably DR is where that happens most. I don't know, but maybe. That's interesting. But yeah. But thank you, Lucy. It's good to see you, by the way. Yeah, Rick Sully says, but they can't deny our ancestors' blood that runs through our veins. Yeah. So, yeah. But, yeah, I'm going to let you guys know as well. Let me do this. I'm going to share this really quick. Let me see. Okay. So that you guys are aware, I am sharing so you guys have my channel. This is my channel as well. If you guys would like to subscribe to my channel as well. I talk about things very similar as well on RBN. So this is my channel. If you guys would like to subscribe, yeah, that's when I have Richie Medhurst on. So I'll be continuing the reading of Blood in My Eye. I'm sorry, getting my books mixed up. Dirty Choose by Michael Parenti. I'll be continuing that, as well as the continued reading of Asada. Speaking of Cuba, because she's in Cuba, Asada Shakur. So I'll be continuing the reading of Asada Shakur on my channel. So I appreciate you guys tuning in for my show today. So let me see. Wait. Okay. All right. So let me see here. All right. Now, oh, I forgot. Woo! Thank God I didn't leave yet. Okay. As you guys notice, scrolling at the bottom of the screen, there is a fundraiser that's going on right now. And that fundraiser is what CJ is doing. Let me share my screen really quick. I forgot. I knew I forgot something. Okay. All right. So they're doing a turkey giveaway. And RBN's giving away $25 gift cards to poor families. 500 turkeys for Watts. So that's what they're doing. They're continuing that. The Cash App is $ with Mutual Aid Forever and Venmo at Forever Mutual Aid. So they're continuing doing that. So it's really just to feed families because who are going through a lot in their area. So if you guys can donate as well to them in their Cash App or the Venmo, so that people can at least have something to eat, then that'll be great. CJ is also doing that. I want to make sure that I continuously add on to that. But I appreciate you guys also doing that as well. Just wanted to put that up there. All right. So I am going to head out. Thank you very much for tuning in. We are now at the 2-hour mark. I got to go. I got to get something to eat. I'm starving like a mug. Look, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Also, especially if you see police stopping someone, especially one that looks like me. It doesn't just have to be someone who looks like me. It can be somebody who's white, Latino. It doesn't matter. Make sure to just observe so that you know that they're okay. Just please stand by them. If you got, your phone on you, turn on your camera. And when you turn on your camera, don't just put it on record. Go live on an app. It can be, go live on Twitter, go live on Facebook, go live on TikTok, go live on Instagram. Just go live, and then it will save into that apparatus, and then other people can see it. And then even if somebody can screen record, and then it'll spread abroad just in case something goes down. But thank you so very much. Continuously share the 10 Demands website. Leave the world better than you found it. And solidarity with our Haitian brothers and sisters and all oppressed people around the world. Love you guys.